Digital ladies breaking the chain, rising in crypto, we're changing the game. Crypto frontier, we're claiming our space. Not your keys, not your crypto, know your place. Unscripted, we're bold, we're free. Melissa, Keda, Lady K, and Opti. Dip a toe, come ride this wave. Digital wealth, we're here to pay.
Crypto nights, we're lighting the spark. As we ignite now, we're setting the mark.
Safety first, we're keeping it tight. Blockchain power, we're shining the light. Unscripted, we're bold, we're free. Melissa, Keda, Lady K, and Opti. Dip a toe, come ride this wave.
Welcome to Digital Ladies Unscripted. How you doing this evening, ladies?
Excellent.
Excellent. I got to do some housekeeping here on the back end. Welcome back to Digital Ladies Unscripted. Guys, ETFs are here. The question of the day is, will XRP and crypto prices explode, or are they going to get just more boring? News comes out and nothing happens. The floodgates are open. Spot XRP ETFs are starting to trade. Solana and others are right behind. We got Bitcoin and ETH ETFs already holding over 120 billion. But do these Wall Street wrappers actually pump prices, or do they just bring sleepy institutional liquidity to a market that was already wild 24/7? Tonight, we're going to talk about the real impact on price action, whether fresh billions are truly coming in, and if your portfolio actually benefits when your favorite coin gets an ETF. Now, ladies, as of December 1st, as of today, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has approved a range of cryptocurrency ETFs, starting with Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2024. And now they're expanding into altcoins like XRP, Solana, Litecoin, and HBAR throughout 2025. The altcoin ETF season has been driven by regulatory clarity, including new SEC guidance in July of 2025, and then the streamlined approvals under generic listing standards just have come rolling in. And ETFs provide regulated exposure to crypto prices via traditional brokerages without needing to manage wallets or keys. So it's kind of exciting for folks that maybe they want to dip their toe, but they're frightened. They're scared about crypto. They don't want to do the homework that's needed to house their own crypto and whatnot. And so before we start kind of diving in, because I kind of want to break down, I don't know about you. We're saying this show's not financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We don't know a whole lot about ETFs. We're just going to straight up say it. We're just giving our opinion, looking at our research that we've pulled up, and kind of talking about it out loud. So if there's any experts that are in the chat, drop it. Like if we have any missteps or whatever, feel free to comment. But the most of the information we got is from research. I wanted to kind of touch on the different kinds of ETFs that are out there, maybe talk about what does it mean whether when your particular coin gets an ETF, does that mean all of a sudden price go up, or is the liquidity already there? And then maybe touch on the types of ETFs that are already in existence now. So yeah, without further ado, kind of let's go around the room and say hello and tell me what you think right off the bat about ETFs. Are you excited about it? Do you know anything about them? What are your thoughts? And we can start with Keda and go Lady K and Opti. Lady K and Opti, dip come right this way. Huh?
The ladies here today.
Oh.
Well, what I will say is I think that anything that can bring more eyes onto the blockchain and onto the digital assets that are available for purchase, I think is a good thing. I think it's a great thing. because there's so many people that don't understand it, don't know anything about it. And so if this is a way for them to be able to dip their toe and get into it with not as much of the volatility, then I think it's a very good thing for the blockchain, I think.
What do you think, Lady K?
Yeah, I mean, it puts it on people's radar, right? So it goes from like, oh, that speculative gamble over there that, the government may or may not like, to like, we can invest in this. So we got to look into it. We got to see what the risk is. And then we got to like tell our clients about it. So like, I think in the long run, that's going to help, the XRP price, as more people buy in and more people start looking at it as a serious investment. So that's my thought on it. That's why I'm excited about it.
What do you think, Abdi?
Yeah, I don't know much about it. Honestly, today I understand a lot more than I did before already, just through like the basic reading over things. And like, I guess now that there's a reason to care, I suppose, for me, I've never been a hype girl on like everybody talking about the financial words in the background. I'm like, I don't care. But listen, just looking into it, exactly what Keda and Lady K said. I would add that for those that are afraid to take control of their own lives and their own, having their own custody and stuff, which is very hard and really nerve-wracking, and there's a huge learning curve. Most people at this point who are into finances have a very big, have understanding of these other old school financial, ways of going about investing. And, some of them have even gone off into like what I understand about like Wealthsimple and some of these other ones where people can actually sort of do like what we're doing, but they're not self-custodying, but they're still doing their own trading and stuff, so that it gives them a little, like you both said, more eyes on it, more experience with it. And then, maybe they'll come to the light side where they custody their own stuff, and, we empower more people.
I mean, I think this is a perfect opportunity as we're starting to bridge the gap with the ETFs in just lending credibility to cryptocurrency in general, because it's had the nasty, rumors surrounding all of it. They like to put it in one big heap of, it's for like nefarious purposes, and, it's so volatile, it's this, it's that. But when you see big players like BlackRock and Fidelity and Franklin Templeton creating these products to sell their customers that have Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP and Hedera and Solana, all of these top tier, what I like to call top tier cryptocurrencies, digital assets, if you will, that maybe some folks that were they wouldn't even listen to it. It's like talk to the hand, roll the eyes when you start talking about it. Now they're going, huh? And, fortunately and unfortunately for them, it's only until their broker, someone that they've been dealing, their financial advisor, once they've been given the green light to start introducing these products to these folks, they're going to say, you want to participate in this ETF we got going? We got this really hot one. Everybody's doing it. They're going to start talking about it on the news. And people are going to go, yeah, I'm going to dip my toe in that. The unfortunate reality for them is that they will not own the actual real asset. They're going to own an interest in the asset, right? You guys want to talk about that for a hot second, the difference between owning the real asset and participating in something like an ETF, where it's a product that is sold to you that you have an interest in it, right? So what do you guys think about that?
I think there's a lot to it. I think what it does, like I said earlier, it takes some of the pressure off when it comes to the volatility of the actual asset, that's one. And then two, for those people that are already into the cryptocurrency and digital asset space, like, we understand the difference when it comes to purchasing the actual asset, right? There's ups and downs, there's volatility, people get very emotionally involved when it comes to purchasing digital assets and cryptocurrencies. In some instances, even more so than other assets that they may purchase. I think that there is a difference between owning the actual physical, like not physical, but owning the actual asset as opposed to having the fund, because the fund is just that. It's a fund that buys into the cryptocurrencies, and you don't have control over which cryptocurrencies are in it. You know what I'm saying? It's just a fund that says, okay, these cryptocurrencies are in it. Okay. And you basically, to me, I feel like the ETF is almost like an IOU. However, what's coming out now are the spot ETFs. They're a little bit different than the futures, ETFs. The difference, one of the differences is the fact that there's supposed to be a 1-to-1 on it for the spot ETFs. So I think that adds to the value of said digital assets and cryptocurrencies, because they have to purchase it, which takes it out of circulation. So that's just how I understand it. And if anybody has anything else that pretty much.
Well, I definitely have an overview of the different types, but I wanted to know their thoughts on this before we get into the different types, because you're right, Keda, they're different.
I mean,
I was just going to say, can we just give them the definition of ETF, please? I don't think we actually went over. Did we? I don't think we did.
Oh, exchange traded fund.
Thank you.
ETF. No worries.
So you're buying shares, which represents ownership in this fund, right? And with spot, they're buying the actual crypto, so you have an ownership in XRP within that fund, and your shares represent that, your allocation, right? And then, like with futures, they do the contracts thing, which I never really liked the futures because that's more gambling, right? You guess on whether it's going up or down, and so they're doing that. And then you have your shares represent your ownership of that, so owning, not your keys, not your crypto, first of all, right? You are just they have the fund and you have ownership in that. Your shares represent that. And so that's the difference between owning the crypto yourself and buying into an ETF like this.
I like to say you have an interest in it, because you never really own the actual asset. You own an interest in the asset, and the earnings from those assets get passed along to the people that hold the fund, right? Based on your percentage of the overall fund, that's how much money you're going to get back, the way that I'm understanding it. And so, like you said, not your keys, not your crypto. So with an ETF, you do not actually own the actual cryptocurrency. You own the shares in a fund that owns the cryptocurrency, or derivatives. You have derivatives of that. You never touch private keys. You never move your coins to your wallet, and you can only sell the shares on a stock exchange. So like,
do you think that it's more like a similar to like what a liquidity pool is?
Yes, except for the fact that you cannot. So with the liquidity pools and DeFi, like we're talking about, this is why it's so important, I think, for folks to really start diving into it, dip their toe, learn as much as they can, start exploring the tools that are available to us. Because with like the liquidity pools that are available, where you can put your own crypto into it, right? And it is risky. Now, there's a risk with all of this stuff. The difference between an ETF and using a liquidity pool is that when you put your tokens in or your coins in, you can pull them back out, the actual coins, the actual tokens, right? When you buy interest in an ETF, if you put X amount of dollars into an ETF, I don't care if it says it's XRP or Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, you're going to get dollars. You're not going to be able to say, I want to pull. So you might have an interest in, say, something, your share is equal, one share is equal to say 10 XRP or whatever. You know, and that's something we'll talk about with the different types, but you know, there's a lot of prices floating around and, you know, it's at 20 something dollars and people get excited and they're like, does that mean like XRP is 20 something dollars? No, that means that if your share has X amount of value worth of XRP as one share. And so as that goes up, so does your interest in it and the amount of value that gets back to you. But it's back to you in dollars. The companies that hold and they own the asset. They're allowing you to participate in the ups and downs of what they own, right? You're buying an interest in that. So you're never going to be able to withdraw. My understanding now, if somebody can tell me that I'm wrong, that
No,
I
I just wanted to say to Keda though, like I mean, like it's not exactly like a liquidity
Right,
pool,
I agree.
but
Right,
think of
not
it like
exactly.
this way. Like the LP tokens you get are shares and you can only sell your LP tokens and you can never actually pull out the money from the AMM if you want to think of it
Right.
like that way.
Right.
Yeah, you have to
And
switch back. You have to
that's what I
switch
was
your
saying. I didn't
liquidity
think it was
pool tokens
exactly
back.
that. It was similar to it. Yeah, just similar.
Yeah, I mean, when you put say your XRP into a liquidity pool, it gives you back, and I learned this from Opti, it gives you back an LP token, right? That represents the value of what you put into this liquidity pool, which is generally, you know, XRP and the butt token, right? I put both of those values into the liquidity pool and it's going to go up and down in price and whatnot. And as it goes up and down in price, so does the value of my LP token, right? And at which point I can exchange it back for what I put in. I can pull that value out. We're hoping at the end of the day that the value is going to be up, right? It's going to be up in value. Same thing with these ETFs. You're going to buy some shares in these ETFs. People that are getting into them early are probably going to benefit really nicely, except for they're going to be benefiting in US dollars or whatever their currency are that they put in, that they buy into the ETFs in. But they're never going to be able to pull out Bitcoin or XRP or Ethereum, as far as I know it. Florida Man Landscaping says,
I was just gonna say he has a great comment actually, like really great. It's shifting the risk of asset ownership to the retail investor. So because the institution owns the crypto, you're paying for these shares, they get that money. You got to turn around and pay you, or, you know, if you want to sell that share, you got to sell it to someone else willing to pay more, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that fund owns that crypto. That's like a great comment, I think.
Yeah. And, you know, and people that get into them, some of them, they might get in and it's real volatile and then they might yank it back out. They might pull their money back out. And because it's too scary, they'll put, you know, $20,000 into an ETF fund and watch it go up to 30,000. They're like, oh, I just made 10 grand, you know, or whatever in their mind. But then it starts going back down and they're like, oh, I better get out. You know, if they don't fully understand. And so, having these larger institutions that are starting to dip their toes into it, that are they're already compliant with all the regulations. I look at this as like a trial, right? You know, the heavy hitters are kind of walking us into the ETF path, and exposing the world to it. Yes, Abdi.
Okay, so I was wondering, because it was really interesting how you were using liquidity pool as like sort of a similar concept, because this is sort of how I felt about building on the blockchain since the beginning. I'm wondering if any of us know, so in the liquidity pool scenario, one of the benefits is like the perk is that every time there's a transaction done through the pool, they, you know, leave a percentage there, right, which increases the value. And so do we know about how like the ETF is making money? My assumption is they're charging managerial fees and different things. So you're also the longer, is that correct? So they're actually,
yeah.
Then also the cost of the fund itself.
Oh yeah. So yes, I think that's exactly correct. There are fees involved when it comes to these types of things, right? what Florida Man Landscaping says, the primary attraction of ETFs and ETPs are convenience, the convenience of it. People want to just put their money out, different places. And so I can see some folks like looking at this as a way to diversify, dip their toe into cryptocurrencies until they see that it's going to be something really, awesome, and it's going to start making money. And then they might say, well, maybe I should have my own Bitcoin or my own XRP or whatever. And, we all theorize that as this money comes in and they start to see it, then the wave of folks start coming in and wanting to buy it. And then that's what's going to push the price up. Now, before we get to which I know we're going to go over the different kinds of ETFs, but one thing I did want to touch on, because everybody gets really excited when we talk about ETFs and thinking that because this is happening, we're going to see price just moon because all of this liquidity is going to come in and everyone gets super excited about it. And I thought about it the other day and I'm like, well, wait a second. They're selling a product, right? Their product is packaged up Bitcoin or ETH or XRP or whatever it may be. They already have it. They are, like, a lot of these institutions they've been waiting, right? You don't just fight for the regulatory clarity and get your approvals to provide, a spot ETF or any of these other types of ETFs without being prepared to go live, right? And so I speculate that they have it. They're opening this up. They're going to see how it goes. Now, if it becomes wildly popular, I can see them buying more. But I speculate that they already have a lot of these assets. And so they're going to say, hey, Opti, I'm going to sell you this ETF. You could buy in for $24 a share of this ETF. And I hope I'm using the right terminology. I'm not pretending like I know what I'm talking about, like I'm an expert, but this is my average Joe mind. This is how I see things. And then you're going to say, that sounds great. And they're going to say, Keda, you get some, and you get some, Kristin, and Melissa's got some. And this is how much it's worth right now. This is how much you guys paid. And then we're going to sit and wait, and we're going to watch and see what happens. And when the price goes up of the assets that are in that ETF, I'm going to pay you a little dividend or interest in it. Like, this is going to be your earnings off of this asset. Same thing with stocks, like business prices go up, the business and all that stuff goes up. That's how people make money. And, every year, sometimes they have great, like if you look at your 401k, like sometimes it goes really up and then there's some crazy stuff going on and then it really goes down. So it's kind of the same thing in my mind. I want to know what you guys think.
Anyway,
Bueller?
okay.
I'm a Bueller.
No, I mean, I agree. And Jay is right about convenience. If I've learned anything, people will pay for convenience. And so I think we should go through the definitions of the ETFs. I think that will be very helpful because, like, there is a difference between the fund that buys and holds it and the fund that just like guesses whether it goes up or down. I hate futures contract. I feel like it's straight gambling.
Right. So the first one the one that I don't know if this is the one that just came out where they talk about the spot ETFs.
Yes.
And that's the new one, right?
Yeah, the spot ETF, because there was the Canary one that came out, if I'm not mistaken, on the 13th of November. And then there was another couple. Was it the Hidden Road?
Something.
Oh yeah. What is that? I have a list of them somewhere of the different ones.
I have that up actually.
So let's touch on the different types first. So so the spot ETF is what? Does anyone want to take that of what exactly a spot ETF is?
I have it up right now, so I can read that one. So a spot ETF, other names it says a physical ETF, direct hold ETF, and how it actually works. It says the fund buys and cold stores the real cryptocurrency, BTC, ETH, XRP, SOL, etc. Price of the ETF moves almost 1-to-1 with the real-time spot price of that coin. And what you own is shares in a trust that holds the actual coins.
All right, let's touch on that right there. So the cool thing about spot ETFs, right, is 1-to-1. They have to hold the actual coin in a
Causing
spot ETF,
scarcity.
right? 1-to-1. And what else? It's going to store it. It
Right.
cold stores. So here's words. It cold storage is the real cryptocurrency. So much like us that buy the real coins, we put them in cold storage, right, to protect. So there is, like Lady K was saying, and FML Jay saying, the convenience of it. You're not holding your keys. You're not holding your crypto. You don't have to be responsible for it. You have somebody else cold storing it for you, the interest in it. But then it says shares in a trust that holds the actual coins. So it's just a share. It's not the actual coin.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Like,
that wouldn't pay that type wouldn't pay dividends.
Oh,
That's what I don't. Yeah, that
they're not making money. You know what I mean? They wouldn't pay dividends.
So what would they make then with the spot then? So the value, just the overall
the
value
price would go up because the
price
Price
until
goes up, you sell your shares for more.
That's what I'm wondering. So okay.
And,
so that's
and the
one
other
thing I
thing
didn't
too
know.
is because of the fact that they are purchasing the actual cryptocurrency 1-to-1, right, for the actual fund, then that should change the actual pricing. It should, because now you're dealing with scarcity, because now you've taken cryptocurrency out of circulation. So, but then we've already seen that there's been spot ETFs that have come online, and we haven't seen any of that type of price movement. So we can't base price movement just on the fact that they're doing 1-to-1. It should, just because of the scarcity, because they're taking, the actual token out of circulation, but I'm not seeing that.
And it might be a small dent, right? But say 10 years from now, like how much XRP will be locked up in funds like these?
It's true.
Well, and this is the question. So we all know from those. So like myself and Dipatosho, we're partners with Caleb and Brown. What is Caleb and Brown? An over the counter. If I buy something on an over the counter, I don't affect the price because I'm not buying it off the exchanges, right?
Right.
I'm buying it from somebody else who has a big old pot of XRP that they want to sell, right? And so if you think about, say, Ripple, the company that has a lot of XRP, they are dealing with the financial system. They are encouraging these types of things with XRP. I mean, I think they would like that. So if there is a big company that wants to buy, like what was the one, Vivo Power, right? Is it Vivo Power that just bought, I don't know, 500 million or something? And there was some kind of story about them, having a deal where they were able to buy XRP at a reduced rate, a reduced price from someone, not necessarily directly from Ripple, but whatever the deal was brokered between them and the other, and then they're going to put that XRP in their treasury, right? So we know that these types of things can be done. And so if you look at XRP in particular, I mean, we are talking about XRP right now, but there's Bitcoin and there's Ethereum and there's Solana and the others too, and they have their own stories to tell. But with XRP, having, like you just said, Keda, having it locked up in these funds, in different institutions, they're not going to sell it. They're never going to sell it. So the more widely used this is, the more lockup it's gonna have. Now, how soon before that actually affects price, I don't know, but I know it's effectively locking it up in stable environments. And so I always think of you, Opti, with your wandering footprint and your butt token, and trying to be very careful about how your token is distributed. Why? Because you don't want someone buying a whole bunch of it and dumping it, right? You don't want someone sabotaging your project. Well, Ripple and any of these other companies are the exact same way, right? And so to me, they're like responsibly trying to, when you think about the entire financial system and the rails that it runs on and all of that, these types of instruments, or I don't think that's the right word, instruments might not be the right word, these types of options to lock it up, I think is a good thing. And I just wonder what your guys' thoughts are on that, because this is where my mind goes. And then I just don't know if I sound like a silly Sally or if it makes sense what I'm saying.
I have a couple thoughts in that while you guys were talking. So one is, we always talk about how nice it'll be if we can loan against our XRP where we don't actually have to sell it. And so I was just thinking, like, if you had shares in something like this, it probably just based on like how the financial system is already, how it has all its rules and its T's, crossed and its I's dotted. That if you had shares in something like this, you could probably get a loan with this as leverage, probably a lot easier than like, hey, I got some XRP in my wallet. So I was thinking that. Then I was thinking on the other side, being the company, they could probably, create, whoever owns the banks or whatever, the institutions that owns the ETF, they could probably do some, loans with this. I don't know how that whole thing works, but I'm assuming that at the top, they all say that everybody runs on debt, right? Because they borrow against their assets and then they don't have to pay taxes when they're paying back a debt. So it seems to me like all the richest people, all the companies, this is how they function, right? They're always sort of like on the books in debt. Through leveraging, their assets. So I'm thinking that's where this would be a huge benefit for them. And then finally, I was thinking, darn it, I brought it up like 3 times while you were talking. I don't know. I guess one of my other thoughts I had was definitely like in terms of the risk. If somebody hacks your bank account will like, typically depending on the scenario, give you your money back. But if somebody, like if you have your own tokens or your own wallet rather, we were having conversations this week about getting safety deposit boxes. Melissa and I were looking up how much it costs for a safety deposit box. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I might have to become a person who has like multiple safety deposit boxes. In fact, I was thinking when I go to the States, like maybe that's something I do, is get a safety deposit box in a completely different state, a completely different country. But then obviously you run. Pardon?
Do you really think that they are going to continue to have safety deposit boxes?
They have to. Somebody like me, I have 15 wallets. I'm always so paranoid of like a Lahaina or an LA event or, Carolina's flood. And I'm always thinking like, okay, so who are my friends that I trust the most? And like, what numbers do I change? And, I'm trying to like, okay, you can get the waterproofing, you can get the metal thing, but like, there's something about giant corporations that you have this, and this is, it's been instilled in us and like, true, false, whatever middle ground. I get it. It's hard to navigate for myself as well. But, I expect them to keep my shit safe, part of my language, so sometimes it's a lot scarier to have your own sort of control over your own mechanisms, especially if you don't have, the bodyguards or the safes or the, like perimeter covered in security cameras or whatever that looks like,
I would just like to touch on that real quick. And then I think Lady K has something to add. As far as I know, back a couple of years ago, a lot of our banks, they closed down. So I don't know if you guys remember, everybody's like, oh, they're closing all the banks down and blah, blah, blah. It was like during COVID. And it was back when they were like, no, we're not using cash right now and all of these things. Well, to me, there's been a trend. They're turning themselves into service centers.
Yes.
So like the banks that I would be normally going and depositing our stuff in, there's only one that I can go to now. The others have been turned into service centers. They even remodeled the way it is. So when you first walk in, there's just a little reception desk there, and then a big old wall where everything's behind it. And then there's private offices and stuff. And so I can see it's like, you're going to come in, you're going to talk about loans, you're going to talk about, probably your digital assets, all of these types of things. And along with that would be safety deposit boxes, because they would be foolish not to offer them now because of cryptocurrency. And I don't think that people are going to be like, I'm just only going to put my stuff in. There's a whole bunch of us that are still going to be housing our own keys and all of that kind of stuff. And plus there's other valuables and things that people need banks for, and they need to make money on any kind of little service that they can do. So I don't think they're going to go away. Lady K, what did you want to say a couple minutes ago?
I think this conversation kind of outlines some people's thought process on, I don't want to get into crypto because I can't call someone if my money is lost, right?
Yep.
But if they go into like an ETF, they don't have to worry about that, right? They show up with their ID, and what they own is what they own.
And we can benefit from it. I mean, we benefit from them because they're going to be adding to institutions, locking up more of the actual asset, right? More of the actual asset than we can on our own as little guys, right? There's only so many dollars that Melissa has to buy the real asset, right? And so I just look at this as like, hey, this is great. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, no, this is not good. But I think it's a good thing. Because it adds legitimacy to the whole thing. It is regulated. It lets the little guys come in. Once we do all these tests and stuff, in my opinion, we're going to start seeing, more and more 401ks and that sort of thing, starting to dabble and dip their toes into it, where you're going to be able to start participating in that way. And so as we gradually start transitioning over to these new type of investment opportunities, that's just the more of the assets that are going to be tied up. I just think right now, a lot of these institutions already have the asset. And now this is just locking it up for these types of products. That's not to even say about facilitating, currency exchanges, value for value, cross-border payments, all of that. This is a whole nother thing. That a use case that XRP in particular will facilitate. But like Bitcoin, being the first store of value in the digital asset space itself, that's been their trial run. It went from being, it's going to be a peer-to-peer to most people going, I'm never selling my Bitcoin. I'm not, no matter what you tell me, I'm not spending my bits. You could pay me in some bits. You could let me earn some bits. And I'm thinking we're going to see the same thing happening with XRP. So I don't see people wanting to spend their XRP. Unless it is a peer-to-peer kind of conversing where it's going to be like a rotating circle where it's going to come back to you. But even there, I don't see people wanting to spend it. So, what do you think?
And also, you're very limited on what you can invest in a 401k. It's not like you can just take the money and do whatever you want. You know what I mean? So if you're in that situation and you're getting free money from your employer, I think this is a great product to
100%
too, right?
Yeah, because like me, I can't touch it. The only way I can touch it is leave my job and cash out, or take a loan against it. That's the only way I can touch my 401k money to diversify myself. Now, if I take a loan against it, am I taking a risk? Not financial advice, but yeah, taking a risk because I got to pay it back. But I look at it as like, okay, safe bet for me are all of the assets that I've done thousands of hours of research on, that I feel confident in. And just because my financial advisor, my person, the broker that decides what's going to be able to go into my 401k is not ready, flat out told me not ready, doesn't care that they're coming about. He's telling me, nope, never going to happen, not in a long time. And even if he does, even if the advisor does, the employer still has to approve what they suggest. So if my employer, who is not into crypto whatsoever, says I will not allow that as an option for my employees, guess what? They don't get to do it. So I mean, that's
Wow.
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. So, you know, there's all these options, but so that's where some of these things you might be able to get into them yourself without relying on your 401k. But I 100% agree with you, Lady K. It's an incredible opportunity for folks that maybe don't have extra money, but can somehow dip their toe into the digital asset space in a little baby way. Let's talk about futures. So there's also futures ETFs. Does anyone want to take that one, or do you want me to read it?
The fund holds future contracts, not the coin. It has to roll contracts every month or quarter, so it can lag or lose money even if the coin price is flat. And what you actually own is shares in a fund that holds the futures contracts.
So who was talking about that earlier, that was saying like the futures is like it's kind of like betting or what, like on what they think the price is going to be? Is that what the deal with the futures?
That's how I see it, right? Like well, okay, so and what is it? With an options contract, you have the right. And with the futures contract, you have the right, but not the obligation. What is that saying? I'm forgetting it now. Somebody help me in the chat. Jay's going to know it. I think with options, you have the right and the obligation. With futures, you have the right, but not the obligation. Is that how it goes? Kind of sounds right to me. I mean, basically, what you're saying, it has to roll contracts every month or quarter. It's more risky. Let's just flat out say it. A futures to me sounds more risky than a spot 1-to-1, right?
Well, it wasn't the spot the one that you have all of the responsibility. The spot ETF, it puts the responsibility on the holder of the share, and takes it off of the actual off of the institution. I thought that's what it said.
I'm not sure about that.
Let me go back to it because I read that. It says shares in trust that holds the actual coins. The fund buys and cold stores the real cryptocurrency. Price of the ETF moves almost 1-to-1 with the real-time spot price of that coin. Yeah, I think that's the least risky, because the only thing is that it's tracking the price in real time, right? It's tracking the price, and I mean it's secured in the cold storage wallet and whatnot, but it said it's ideal for long-term holders. So okay, I worked it out. So it's the options contract. You have the right, but not the obligation. You can take out an options contract, like I think, and you can back out if you want. You have the right to execute that options contract if you want or not. With the futures, you have the right and the obligation. Well, you have the obligation, right? So you can say like, I'm willing to buy XRP at X amount. And if you do this under like an options, you can do it if it becomes favorable to you. They can't, the other party can't. Oh, I see what you're saying. But you cannot do it if it doesn't become favorable to you. But with a futures contract, you have to do it. Whatever contract you went under, to buy at a certain price or sell at a certain price, you have to fulfill that. So a little birdie says options you own for a specific period of time until expiration. Okay. I remember that now. If you bear in the money, if you are in the money, you have the option to buy outright prior to expiration. But do they even have an options ETF?
or is it just the futures, or is that the same?
The
Like,
only two that I've ever heard are
I didn't think they have an options, but maybe
I
I'm
think
wrong.
the only thing that I've ever heard are the future and the spot. I haven't
Yeah.
heard anything else aside from that.
Well, so there's a couple other ones that I know that are that they have. They have
Canary is optionable.
Canary is optional.
Optionable.
Interesting. So that would be kind of like in the futures then. Okay. Oh yeah. Options on ETFs, derivatives, calls and puts on spot ETFs for hedging speculation. They were launched in late 2024 for Bitcoin and expanded in 2025. Pros, risk management; cons, premiums, expiration risks. So that's the deal with that. Okay.
So I look at it like this, like you have to guess whether you're buying the XRP or selling the XRP. You have to guess like, oh, I think it's going here. So like I'm going to make an options contract or a futures contract. So
I want to deal with that.
In my mind, you're guessing, right?
Mm-mm.
And that's just what I don't like about it. But then you're paying for the contract as well. So in my mind, this is like a rent to own. You know what I mean? Like you're not
like
buying
That's a perfect analogy.
but you're paying for the option to buy it later if you can.
It's like the kids wanting to be a trade. Well, I mean, then I'm looking at there's like the leveraged ETFs where they use swaps and futures to give you 2 or 3 times the daily move of the coin, or one a negative 1 or 2 for inverse, and it resets every single day. Massive decay if held longer than a day. Yeah, I ain't playing with that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do any of that. That's not my thing. But for some folks that want to dip their toe into playing around, I guess maybe that'd be a safer way. But again, you still don't own the coin itself.
Right.
So some of the other ones are so that's the leveraged one, because then you could actually just
I think
lose
that's
it.
like the adrenaline. In my opinion, that's like the like these are, each one is a different layer of adrenaline, and like you got the junkies that'll go to Las Vegas and put $1,000 on with like, or 10,000 or $1 million. They don't care. It's just for fun. They like their joy in their joie de vivre is putting money down in blackjack or whatever. Where like me, I might have pulled the thing a couple times. There's a very big difference between the two of us. I think some people love the risk of like being able to maybe get this crazy win, but with the crazy highs come the crazy lows, right? Which is a lot of us. Like we like playing, de-risk as much as possible, even though we're playing in this field. Even though we've gone into crypto, we recognize that it's very volatile. We're hoping that $600 turns to $1,200. We're not these people with 50,000, 100,000, $1 million trying to like double our pocket today kind of thing. I mean, I wish and I hope that like eventually we can all sort of come together and like make these things possible for ourselves. Ultimately, I'm looking forward to our after space. I think it's a really interesting conversation to elaborate more on the whole liquidity pool and like sort of like the cross-pollination of what's possible through that. And also I'm looking forward to talking about the research that you and I did about the escrow. And just like, one of the reasons why, like the sale walls and, how much money has to be being purchased every day. And so your argument about, I think that they already have this, makes a lot more sense to me in terms of like, they have to sell that out first before they start going, let's buy another 10 million, let's buy another billion, So yeah, that's my opinion. And we have 10 minutes left.
If you even think about it logically, how would you do it? Again, we're beta testing this stuff. This is all new, right? Are you just going to put through all your chips in, or are you going to test the waters? Are you going to baby step it out? Because I see them baby stepping. That's what I see. And now we're kind of like beyond the have to have the car seat turning face backwards in the back seat of the car. Now we're like front way in the back seat, maybe got a little bit of a booster, but like we're still not where the kid can't sit in the car seat. You know what I mean? We're still like at the beginning stages of that. And I wouldn't blow all my money in trying these things, because what if it fails, right? And I see them all like, well, is this guy going to do it? And that guy is going to do it. Okay, we're all going to try it now, So
one more thing, that's a good teaching moment. Jay pointed out that in these options and future contracts, when it is to buy, it's called a call, and when it is to sell, it's called a put.
Calls and puts.
Right. So when you hear people saying call or puts, that's
Thank you. I knew we'd love to have Jay. He would be throwing down some hard knowledge up in this space tonight. Okay, so we just got a couple more because we're almost out of time. We'll just touch on it real quick. Covered call. They call it an income ETF. It holds spot crypto and sells monthly call options on it to generate 2 to 6% monthly yield. It captures upside in big rallies, but gives steady income. And so basically it shares in a spot fund that writes options. So here we go. You can either, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, if I read that right, you can either straight up participate in a spot ETF, or you can participate in the covered call where you have shares in a spot fund.
Well,
is that something different?
That one might even pay dividends, because what they're saying is
exactly.
They're buying the XRP or the crypto, and then they're doing options on it, and that's to buy. So they would be, but if it's to buy, like I was going to say, if they did options to sell, they could earn that income selling the option, right? So, but they're probably earning the income from the options, and that's how they're generating the revenue.
That makes sense, man. Guys, we're learning a little bit. We're learning a little bit. The one thing that I did want to mention, and there's a couple other ones too, but one thing that I'm interested in is this basket multi-asset ETF. And they call those index ETFs, crypto basket, diversified ETFs. And basically, these are ETFs that hold several different coins in one fund, usually like the top 5 or 10 by market cap. And they use what's called a weighting rule to stay balanced. And so with that, you would still own shares in the fund that holds multiple coins. And when I did research on this, I don't know, about a month ago.
Is that
I think Franklin? I think it might be Franklin Templeton. It might have been them that I was researching. It was like about a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago, when I started looking into it. And the way that I understood it was the way that they'll handle the volatility of the asset. So if you own a share in this fund and it's got Bitcoin and XRP and whatever, they're all weighted within that share. Yeah. And then as one price goes up and one goes down and all of that, they can kind of like rebalance it, I think. And so these are things that you need to look at when you participate in these kinds of funds, how they handle that, how you're, because one would think, well, if I got it into this and then Bitcoin goes shots way up or XRP goes really up, does that mean that my multi ETF is going to go skyrocketing? I don't think so. Well, I think they're gonna rotate it around based on the value. I haven't
seen that happen. I have an account with Franklin Templeton, so I'm in it, and it's a little bit different of a model. For them, they have certain funds, right? And you're putting fiat into it. You're not purchasing a share or anything like that with Franklin Templeton. You're putting fiat into it and you're getting an APY off of it. So basically you're funding that fund to purchase cryptocurrencies and digital assets. So I guess it is a little bit different with Franklin Templeton, but it seems like it's what you were just talking about.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is, so it is like that. What I'm saying is the share that you buy, that's the basket of whatever's in it. As the price of those assets go up and down, they can
They
they can
rebalance the quantity of the other cryptos.
right. Because otherwise it could be up and down, up and down, up and down. And so like if they have it Bitcoin heavy and, you know, say they have like 10, I don't know, a smidgen of Bitcoin and 100 XRP and, you know, a half of an Ethereum equals 1 share. And then these prices go up and down. They'll rebalance the amount of whatever is in there that holds that based on criteria of whatever that that's what I researched. You know, I might not be 100%. And, you know, the only thing is just look it up for yourself. Hopefully I'm provoking somebody to look it up for themselves and start asking just the question of, well, how does a index ETF balance itself out, you know, or how is it, you know, whatever, start asking those questions and then you'll figure it out, you know, a lot easier than, because I mean, I'm definitely not an expert at it, but Mr. Zam, lots of formulas involved in options contracts. Greeks hold a lot of weight depending on expiration select. Okay, that's different. That's a different.
You know, it sounds like a liquidity pool, except with multiple cryptocurrencies, right? Like 10 instead of 2.
And that's what I was trying to say. Like, I know it might not be. I'm sure somebody that knows all about this stuff would like balk at me saying, you know, no, it's not the same as liquidity pool with butt tokens and XRP. But in my mind, it is, because
one day.
I mean, I'll just say in my mind, if I'm going to put my XRP and my butt token in this liquidity pool with the hopes that it's going to go up as, you know, as the prices go up and people start buying and we burn some of it and the price goes up and all of these things, then I can actually pull out the actual asset. That's where I'm saying that is a difference. And so the people that are buying into these ETFs, they're just cashing out fiat. That's it. I mean, they're not going to get the actual Bitcoin or XRP or any of that stuff. So that's the main difference, but it surely is an avenue. And we have like 3 minutes left. I would love final thoughts or any other points that any of you guys would like to make.
Buy the cryptocurrency.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
Not your
I just want to right. I just want to say, love learning with you ladies. This stuff, I mean, I really have had a hard time wrapping my head around this and this conversation, just being able to like feel not so stupid, like feel like, okay, I have similar questions to other people and that we can work it out together and we can discuss like sort of things that we find familiar without worrying about like the criticism of like using the wrong language or, you know, just like, you know, a lot of people, I think when they're trying to educate, they get really hung up on the language and like, yep, I get it. However, when you're just trying to wrap your head around it, you know, and I appreciate you plugging the Blue Umbrella token and like not financial advice, probably going to stay the same price forever. But I am going to be adding liquidity to it very soon. So, you know, that's another thing we can talk about in the after space. Hope to see y'all there.
Amen. Final thoughts, Lady K and Keda. Is she frozen?
I was muted. I'm sorry. I was typing because
that was my final thought. Go for it, Keda.
No, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that came in tonight. You know, these discussions are always so educational for everyone. So we've had a lot of great interaction with our, you know, with our comment section. And thank you for being here for sure.
Amen,
also,
guys.
I wanted to say it like your hat. We didn't see it on there. Yeah, I said it earlier.
Little page boy, I love it.
I appreciate that, guys. Yeah, this is something we definitely need to keep talking about. I love that we're feeling confident enough to even get it out there, and you know, we're kind of attaching it to real world stuff, and we'll see where it goes, and hopefully we'll have another conversation about it. Please join us in the after space at 10:10. I posted the link in the chat, and we love you guys. We'll see you next time on Digital Ladies Unscripted. Be there, be square. Love you. Bye.
Digital ladies breaking the chain, Rising in crypto, we're changing the game. Crypto frontier, we're claiming our space. Not your keys, not your crypto, know your place. Unscripted, we're bold, we're free. Melissa, Keda, Lady K, and Opti. Dip a toe, come ride this wave. Digital wealth, we're here to pay.
Crypto nights, we're lighting the spark. As we ignite now, we're setting the mark.
Safety first, we're keeping it tight. Blockchain power, we're shining.